tell me a little bit about this metal versus racism video series that you guys are involved with.
Well, that started like about a month and a half ago or something, and I had the idea to start doing something about it, and I talked with, of course, Sonny and Chad and Scotty, and then Eric from Gay Creeper, that we became friends on tour. And I saw that he was very involved, at least on the internet, you know. And so I contacted him. I was like, hey, I had this idea. I was like, why don't we start this dialogue about racism in the metal scene, and we try and get people involved from bands that people know, so we can get some kind of like attention, you know what I mean? We can get some kind of like attention from people and like spark some kind of dialogue. And then we added like, you know, full-on testimonies from like metalheads in the scene, from people of color that come to metal shows, and they had like weird, uncomfortable experiences, and it happens often, and like, you know, lots of people don't realize it eventually because it doesn't happen to them. But it is important to talk about it. So like we started this thing as like, you know, we just made an email address where people could have sent the videos, and we just like start telling people to tell more people. And that's kind of like how it all spread it and happened. And it's like, luckily, like the only employer at 10 Crimes is this guy, Marky, that is really good at doing video editing and all kinds of graphic stuff. That's what he does for the label. And the way he gets paid is kind of like a deal that he has with Scotty, but pretty much he has to do everything Scotty tells him to do. So I mean, when Scotty needs him, Marquito has to work for him. He's got to do it. Like, you know, he pays him a certain amount every month, whatever, and then he's like, you know, you work, you do everything we need. Then there is a month that he doesn't do shit. Eventually, because nothing is needed, he still gets paid. But eventually, there is the month that he's busy. So anyway, Marquito also wanted to help. So it's like he helped us out with the editing, and we have been able to, like, you know, post them and have people talk about it, and we have amazing, interesting conversations on the internet and on the phone, even with people, myself, and like, I don't know, it's a very interesting learning process, because it's like people don't realize that like we are all coming from, we all grew up in a society that is racist and that is based on injustice and oppression of the minorities, and it's always been, and it's like, we grew up with thinking that we're not racist, and eventually we all are, and like we all have to learn how to not be, or learn how to respect people, and learn how to be a better person. And for me, it was important. I always thought about, like, you know, the metal community is like such a place for like people that don't feel comfortable anywhere else. You know, you want to listen to heavy, aggressive, fucked up music, and it's like, you're doing it because you don't feel comfortable in society or wherever, or at work, or you feel like this world doesn't make any fucking sense. So it's like, you know, this is a place for outcasts, you know. We all end up in metal, in punk, because we're outcasts. So it's like, we cannot outcast anybody from our safe place, from the safe place that people choose to make theirs. Whatever is their, you know, whatever is their race, background, whatever is their size or gender, or whatever the fuck they want to do. The metal scene needs to be a safe place for everybody.
Now, is there a specific incident or type of behavior in the metal scene that you're responding to, or is
experience?
Experience, sure.
Well, the thing is that it's like, I feel that like often people of color don't feel comfortable coming to certain shows because of the crowd, or like you're coming to certain places, and like you end up playing in some places where, you know, 99% of the people are white, and you're like, well, there is black people here, why they're not at the show? And then you eventually, like, you know, eventually you hear someone saying a racist joke like it's nothing, or eventually you see someone, like, you know, with a patch with a swastika on it, and it's like, you know, I've seen people with a swastika flag at a Motorhead show, like, you know, flying it around like it was nothing, and nobody told them anything. And it's like, you know, there is some kind of acceptance of like racism and like totalitarianism in metal, when it's like absurd, because it's like, if you meet the musicians, it's like, besides like, you know, the few insane ones, it's like pure musicians, they're all pretty open-minded people, and like, even if we play very extreme music, we're super tolerant and open-minded, and like live and let live. We travel the world. We have seen it all. It's like we don't care for, we don't differentiate it between humans. And it's like, it is upsetting that, like, some people take this heavy music and uses it to make it something of division, something of racism, of making it like, not accessible for certain people, or not as accessible. And it's not fair, because it's like, we go on tour, we write songs for everybody, for everybody fucking want to hear it. And I don't want to feel like, if I'm going to like certain parts of the countries, it's like, eventually there's the black kid that wanted to go see my band, and eventually he's not going to go because, the metal shows there is kind of sketchy for a person of color. So there's that. Or like, even if it's not like, it doesn't need to be like, oh, they're going to kill him or, beat him up. It's like eventually a joke. So like, or they get asked, like, this happened a lot to women of color, or being asked like if they even know who's playing when they went to the show to see that band because they like it. Sometimes they get asked, like, microaggressions will be like, oh, you don't belong here, which, I have experienced it before as an immigrant in this country, and it's like, there is questions that people can ask you or whatnot, that they make you feel uncomfortable, They make you feel like that you have to justify yourself for being there because you don't belong there. So it's like, we need to do something about it, and I think that like the first step to do something about it is to talk about it, because people sometimes is like they just behave in certain ways because they don't know any better, because they grew up in a place where everybody's doing that, and it's normal and it's funny, and it's like they don't have that understanding to see that it's like, it's not funny. It's funny for you because it doesn't affect you. It's funny because we live in a society that teach people that being assholes is being funny, or that being a dick is being cool. So it's like, we can live a better life. We can. I don't believe that, like, we just suck and that's it. There is a possibility of bettering ourselves a little bit, at least in the relationship we have with each other, of being have a little bit more of like solidarity towards other people, instead of everything just be like, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't exist.
So you mentioned you started this video series about a month ago. Were you inspired at all by the George Floyd protests and the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, of course. I mean, we are all living these times. We're all seeing on TV the videos of police brutality, and it's like, especially against people of color, and it's like, it's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable, and it's like, especially with the history that the United States have with, like, slavery and segregation. It's like, it's unacceptable that in 2020 these things still happen, and it's like, yeah, of course we've been influenced, because like, you feel powerless, right? When you see those things, and like, it's upsetting, it's disgusting, and like, you feel powerless. Or like, even if you go to the demonstration, you still feel kind of powerless. And then it's like, well, what is that you can do? While feeling powerless, I was like, maybe we can make a little difference, or maybe we can do a little something about in our little world, which is like, the metal community, because we go on tour and we see people, we know all the metalheads at the shows, we talk with everybody, and like, this is our world. So it's like, I can't change the world because who the fuck am I? But like, maybe we can do a little better. We can start a discussion in our little circle, see if we can do something at least about that.
Chad, did you want to add to that?
No, I mean, Luca said it pretty straightforward. I mean, there's no reason why someone can't make a personal stand of where they're at, with this whole thing. It's like, okay, you can just hide from, current events and just, hope that it's going to go away, but like, it's not going away. Like, you have to be clear where you stand, because it's just like, if you want to, walk the fence or just act like, it doesn't affect you, then that's super selfish, because it's like, it's affecting somebody, and ultimately, it will affect you in some way. So I think it's important for people to, if they see something that isn't right, or that's it's not, you know, it's not yeah, if something's not right, speak up. Don't fucking hold back and just wait for it to go away, because, you know, just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's just gonna avoid you forever. It could happen to you tomorrow. I mean, just people don't really you know, look at history too often. They're just too caught up on their own in their own little world, and I think it's important to stand up for what's right and not back down from that.
Yeah, I think people don't also they don't realize that like it doesn't affect you right now, and it's like because it's like oh there is like a marked police that they're pretty much kidnapping protesters, and it's like to me that looks a lot like South America, and it's like to me it looks a lot like that's not freedom, that you cannot go and express yourself against your government. They're like that's why what they like they've been talking so much shit about so many countries where you go to jail if you protest the government in there, and people are like, oh yeah, well this is America, we're freedom here, and it's like now that is happening here, and like those same people that they call for freedom is like they don't understand that it's like you need a justice system, you need like police need to be held accountable for what they do, because it's like one day eventually like it's like you are the kind of guy that will never go to a protest, so you don't give a shit, and you actually hope that they're gonna put everybody in jail, right? Then eventually you're gonna have like a son that is gonna grow up. Fast forward, he's 16, he's going to the protest, he gets shot in the head by a cop. Then are you still gonna think the same, that you didn't need to protect that freedom for everybody? It's like, it's like, to me, it's absurd. It's like, how do you not get that? It's like, no matter what we do, no matter what mistake a person can do, that is not like, killing someone or something extreme. Is like, there should not be like a punishment that is like served on the street by any force. It's like, it's 2020, it's the Western world. Like, we are supposed to be like, just and freedom and give opportunities and give people like a fair trial. And it's like, it shouldn't be like this, that someone gets killed by a police officer. It's like on the street, because it's like, becoming a police officer is very easy. And it's like, don't you get where the problem is? That is like, anybody can become a police officer and kill someone and get away with that. That's not security, and that's not freedom either.
Yeah, the recent developments of the federal police, essentially kidnapping protesters or people that they decide are with Antifa or whatever is extremely alarming, just because I grew up in the Philippines at a time when the Marcos administration had instated martial law, where essentially the same thing would happen, where government operatives and policemen would just show up in the middle of the night and take people away, and you never hear from that person again. So this is, it's really like the craziest totalitarian tactics that are being enacted in the United States right now.
Well, we're not there yet with people completely disappearing, but at the same time, it's very alarming, definitely, from, for the US, definitely, it is alarming.
Yeah, as somebody who lives in Malaysia, we have something called the Sedition Act, where this was a law that was instituted in the 60s, ostensibly to combat communism and potential communist operatives, where the government has the right to arrest people without charges. And so I'm basically seeing the same thing that's happening in the authoritarian Muslim regime that I live in, happening in the United States. And to me, it's an extremely slippery slope. And if you allow one aspect of it to be normalized, I don't think arrest without trial or people disappearing into black sites is that far behind. Maybe I'm alarmist, but I'm seeing. No,
it is. I think it's worrying. Like, the part of people disappearing is like, I don't know if they're actually disappearing or like eventually being released or like, but like what I know is that it's like, we are all tired of seeing so many people getting murdered by the cops. And it's like, that's what's at the base of protests, is like, people of color have been targeted a lot, but poor people in general, or mentally ill people. And it's like, we live in a society of pure paranoia, and a lot of the reason is the amount of weapons that there are, and the amount of healthcare that there isn't. So you have all these mentally ill people and living on the street with no assistance, or living in their house losing their mind, or what I mean is like, if you don't give the medicines for free to who needs them, or you don't give him even like the chance to go to a doctor and fix what he needs, is like, you're gonna create a society of psychopaths. And it's like, plus you make all these weapons very easily available, and then you have a police force that is not well trained, and then it's very easy to become a policeman with very little training. You're out on the street. So it's like, you put all these three things together, and there is so much paranoia, and then there is so much bad cops that join in just because they are eventually racist assholes, and they just want to fucking be dicks and eventually kill people, and eventually they get away with it. And another reason why they get away with it is because all cops protect each other, so nobody's ever gonna testify against another. They have their own rules inside of the cops, and they follow those rules. So it's like, they don't go by like what it should be that a policeman can be like, hey, my partner the other day did this, and I'm reporting him. That never happens. So it's like that is part of the problem, and that is why people says like all cops are bastards, is because they all follow their own rules instead of the rules that us, the citizens, by voting and creating like a society that's supposed to be democracy, that made some rules, through years and years of fucking what the fuck, and it's like now it's like we can even I don't know, it's just unacceptable, because it's like we can even apply those rules to our own police or whatnot, because it's like they become above the law, and we let that happen.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't see how why people have a problem with fixing this problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. Essentially, what's happened in the States is mental health has become...
Any force above the law is dangerous for the people that just want to live peacefully.
Yeah. Well, especially when there's no accountability. But, if health and mental health becomes a law enforcement problem, and poverty becomes a law enforcement problem, you're forcing law enforcement to deal with problems that they don't have the tools to deal with. They have an extremely limited set of tools to deal with what comes down to psychological issues and large systemic problems. And cops are what can a cop do for sick people, and what can a cop do for homeless people? Not much, except arrest them, harass them, make life uncomfortable for them, because those are the only tools they have at their disposal.
Horrible things. I've seen a video the other day of this old homeless dude at a bus station that gets shot by 15 cops because he's like drunk, sleeping on the floor, and he puts his hands by his belly, like, you know what I mean? They shoot him dead. And he's clearly an old man that is like sick, and he's like, he's definitely not a threat to anybody. He's insane. He's like, you see these videos and you're like, what the fuck am I living?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to be here. What the fuck? What place is this? Why are they murdering this old man? He's like, in any other country in the world, even the poorest country, someone will go there and help him. That's what's sad. Here we call the police to shoot him. It's pretty brutal if you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like there is what's fucking wrong in people's mind.
back to the video series, Metal versus Racism. I've had a little bit of a different experience just because I am, a person of color. I'm, mostly Indian mixed with some Portuguese, and I spent a number of years in New York City where I don't know what the demographic breakdown would be, but I would say for the most part, if I went to shows, the audience was largely Hispanic. There's a large Black and Hispanic population in the metal scene there.
Well, in over here too, man, on the West Coast too. You gotta start going on tour in all those other spots.
Yeah, and that's that's what I realized. I went to a few shows outside of New York. I've been to shows in Arizona, and I've been to shows in a few other places where it's really not like that. And I saw what I would describe as some pretty ugly things where it did seem like there was a racial component to even something as benign as a mosh pit, which you wouldn't think twice about. But I remember in Arizona, it seemed like one Mexican guy was being targeted by acting like they're
on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Acting like they wanted to mosh, but really I think the issue was he was a Mexican guy who was there with a white girlfriend, and that rubbed some people the wrong way.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, I don't know to the extent like what definitely I think what you're saying is fair. There are not just people of color, but women who LGBT people who don't feel comfortable in the metal scene in their own community just because you never really know what's going to happen to you in a show in a dark place where if you're there alone it could be a bunch of people jump you or otherwise make you feel unwelcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know from first direct experience, but definitely I'm sure you could ask Dan from Acephalix and Boston, and he can tell you for sure experiences, and he's like, I know it firsthand because so many times that Dan was there and he's gay, and there was someone who would go oh, that's gay, what I mean. He would use gay in a negative sentence,
yeah,
with a negative connotation. And so many times Dan was there, and and people wouldn't even realizing they were doing it in front of him or whatnot. It's like he's so accepted in the metal. Sometimes people in the metal community, they feel so comfortable that they can say shit that they shouldn't be saying, that is derogatory, that is offensive, because that is hateful. And they even do it in front of people that is it's so accepted in their mind that they even think that the person that is the victim of that comment is okay with it. You know what I mean? That's how far mental it is.
Yeah, and a lot of that is upbringing. I'm of an age where I grew up. We would say, "Oh, that's gay" or "That's retarded," just because we were
sure, of course,
we
absolutely.
Were, we were dumb teenagers who didn't know any better. But there comes a point when you're an adult where you have to realize
exactly
this is behavior that is hurtful and wrong-minded, and as a thinking adult, this is behavior that you can unlearn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly my point with metal versus racism is also that, because it's like we've all done, we have all said shit we shouldn't have said. We've all had friends like that. We have all, we didn't stand up when it was for someone when it was the right time to stand up for that person. It's like, I'm not saying that that's what I'm saying is we're all being in the wrong. We have all grown up in a way that they told you that things that they're wrong are not wrong. So you have to kind of relearn it and admit to yourself that it's start understanding certain behaviors that you might have do or that that you might have done in the past, and understand them and move on. Move on, fucking move on. Don't do that shit anymore. It's stupid. It's offensive. Just that's it. Instead of there is a lot of people that have a lot of problem with this, with admitting these or let that part of themselves go, the racist asshole. I don't know what's the block inside to fuck it, you know what I mean? It's wrong, you're hurting people, we're all fucking friends, we're all metalheads, stop doing it. Boom. It's not that hard. You just have to admit that you fucked up.